Thank you for joining us on the Smile Effect Podcast. I'm your host, Katrina Houston, mom, dental hygienist, author, and life enthusiast. Have you ever thought the universe was sitting back and having a good laugh while seeing how much pain you can actually endure? You are not alone. Every single person has a story, and it's in these stories of pain and struggle that if we allow ourselves, we will find beauty. This is your life, your one and only shot to live your truth. Don't wait for someone to tell you you can. Use your story as power to break free from the past and become who you are meant to be. On this show, I will talk to people just like us, those who have struggled but fought to break free from the past so they could turn their pain into purpose. Stop telling yourself that you're not good enough and live the life you are meant for. Are you ready? Let's do this. Welcome to episode 2. You guys, I'm so excited about today's episode because it is the very first interview of the podcast and because I have an awesome guest for you guys. Her name is Freitag-Dooley. She's a registered dental hygienist and a certified life coach. She specializes in program development and written goal setting, which she calls Manifesto writing. She coaches people towards inspired action through clarity and authenticity in their careers and lives. Today, Jamie discusses everyday challenges that we face and gives us steps towards freedom. This is definitely not a show that you want to miss. Without further ado, let's welcome Jamie. Jamie, welcome to the show.
Thank you very much for having me, Katrina.
Absolutely. I am so excited about having you as my very first interview. Can you believe you're my very first?
I am so honored. I can believe it. I've been part of this journey with you, and I am so excited for you. We are such soul sisters, for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm a little bit nervous for this episode, and I don't really know why. I think it's just because it's my first live episode for The Smile Effect, because I have another podcast, but it's a dental podcast. You've been on that one as well, with my co-host, Sarah Lawrence, who's an amazing dental hygienist. But this is the first one for this one, so I'm a little nervous, but I'm excited.
Yeah, I'm so excited too. You're going to definitely inspire a lot of people. I just know it. Expanding beyond dentistry, as you know, I did the same thing, and it was a little nerve-wracking because that's our comfort zone, but there's so many people that can benefit from your message, so I'm really happy for you.
Well, I appreciate that, and that's why I wanted to bring you on here, because you are such an inspiring person, and you are killing it in the dental industry, but I know that you can help so many people outside of dentistry, and I wanted to introduce people to you because I know that you can help so many.
Well, thank you.
You're welcome. And like I said, you are really doing your thing. You're helping a lot of people in dentistry, some big name people, and you weren't born into a super wealthy family and just handed over an amazing life, right?
No.
You are the definition of the smile effect. You really have struggled in your life, and you have earned everything that you have today. So I wanted to bring you on the show so you could kind of share your story with people and be an inspiration.
Awesome. Yeah. I think that to talk to your point when we first started, life is all about perspective. And so we can choose to be nervous and say, I have butterflies and I'm feeling really nervous and I might not want to do this. Or we can choose to say, I have butterflies, I must be really excited. I'm stepping a little bit out of my comfort zone and something new, big, and wonderful is about to happen. And life is all perspective.
Yes. And so many times we get stuck inside that little bubble of our own perception and we can't find our way out of it. And people think that fear is a bad thing, and it's actually such an awesome thing, because once we step on the other side of fear is when life becomes beautiful. Wouldn't you agree?
Absolutely. Absolutely. I've also heard it said that if you imagine life as a pendulum and there's a middle, and that's where most people live, but there are some of us who like to swing the pendulum. And to the extent that we are willing to swing it to the negative, that's the level of happiness that we can feel. Because you can only know equal. You can only know both sides, that all things have dichotomy. All things. There is no good or bad, right and wrong, black and white, like we think there is. There's just our perspective of it. And when you experience one side, you also will experience the other for the total picture. And when I learned that, I didn't understand it fully. And now that I remember it each time that I go through a dark period, I remind myself, okay, the other side's going to be so awesome. And to just have faith, keep moving, don't get stuck, just keep moving. You know that song, if you're going through hell, keep on moving, before the devil knows you're there, it's a country song. I play that song in my head all the time. No matter what's going on in my life, it can be bad traffic or it can be a bigger tragedy. But just keep going. Happiness is not permanent. It's not a permanent state, but you can access it at any moment for any reason, and it's within. And so sadness, it's the same thing. It's not a permanent state. Just keep moving through it, honor you, keep moving through it, and you will find the other side.
Right, absolutely. And I feel like with that awesome pendulum analogy, it's a great visualization because people get so stuck inside that center, and it's comfortable there because people aren't judging you. You don't feel like people are talking bad about you behind your back, because once you go on one of the sides, it is daunting, and you kind of feel out of place. And there was a post that I made on Instagram last night. It was normal is boring. And we don't have enough people who are true to their uniqueness. Normal is boring. We just need more people to be their true selves. But it can be scary, and it's definitely a process. It's not something that you can say, this year I'm going to get outside my comfort zone, and just because it's January 1st, doesn't mean that, awesome, I'm a new person. It's something, you're right, you have to work at every single day.
Yeah, and through my coaching practice, what I have learned so deeply is how little time people spend going within to meet their real selves. Social media can be a wonderful tool. I can connect with people all over the United States and help like-minded hygienists that maybe want to do something a little bit different besides clinical because their body aches, or they're nearing retirement and they have all these ideas that they've never taken action on. So it's a wonderful tool that I can meet them and help them and connect with them. But at the same time, social media can be damaging if you're not spending enough time away from it, because comparison really can come into play. And when you're comparing yourself to others, you're going to feel off path because that's not your path. You're going to feel a little bit down and sad because you're seeing other people succeed. They're succeeding on their path, your own individual path, your authentic path, the path to your most authentic self. No one's traveled on before. It only belongs to you. So it's alone. It's dark, right? It's winding. It's dark. It's not well lit. It's not well groomed. It's like a dirty, dusty shoe track. You're there alone. It's a bit scary. But the only person that ever will or ever can travel on it is you. And if you're not willing to go within and spend some time alone and really get clear on who you are, what you want, and why you feel the way you feel, then anything you look at on social media is going to make you sad versus excited and happy and inspired at all these other people living their authentic lives.
I could not agree more, yes.
Yeah, so knowing when the right time is to take a little break is key.
Absolutely. You have to just really be happy with yourself, and that's a process. And you didn't just wake up one day and look in the mirror and you're like, I am fabulous, honey. Let's do this thing, right? I mean, it was
No.
time and time again. So let's talk about that. Tell us your story.
Yeah, so I used to be miserable. I mean, I was really a miserable person. I grew up in a very small town in rural Upper Michigan, And I was, homecoming queen, captain of the cheerleading squad, band president. I did everything. I exhausted myself. And I thought that after high school, life was going to be picture perfect, and it was. On the outside, everything looked picture perfect. Marriage, kids, house, job, everything from the outside looking in was the way that I wanted it to look. But what I wasn't doing was spending authentic time within to really get to know me. I was putting out a persona and a picture that I thought the world wanted to see versus what I needed or wanted. And it set me on a very deep spiritual journey where I really explored anything that seemed attractive in any fashion. I spent hours and days at Barnes and Noble reading for free. That was my go-to with my kids when they were younger. They're now 16 and 19. So a bookstore was someplace that we frequented because we could go there for hours and look at books and read books, and it was free. So I really credit all the wonderful authors out there with all the self-help books for helping me start my own spiritual journey and really connect with God on a level that I never could attending church. And I'm not judging because I know some people can connect with God in church. I just was never one of those people. I connect with God in nature. I connect with God in quiet, home alone in my pajamas with a cup of coffee. It's just different for me. And I think finding your own authentic path is going to be unique, like you said earlier. Whatever it is that makes you authentic is going to be unique. It's more likely going to be nothing you've heard of before than fit perfectly within someone else's definition of it. And that can be really scary for some people.
And when you say that you connect to God in nature and sitting, drinking a cup of coffee, are you meditating?
I do meditate. I try to start my day, and sometimes I will end my day with meditation. And like I tell my clients all the time, meditation, just like religion and spirituality, or whatever you want to make it, whatever feels right for you is meditation. So my husband has a motorcycle, and I feel the most meditative when I'm on the back of that motorcycle. I can barely hear the music if I have a helmet on, and I obviously do not have my phone. The other place that I find meditative is the treadmill at Orange Theory. I don't know if you've ever gone to Orange Theory, but it's amazing. And you cannot bring your phone into Orange Theory. So for me, being away from my phone in and of itself is meditative, where I am not being fed something from the outside coming in, but I'm accessing my own thoughts and ideas and aha moments and self in a different way. When I meditate, sometimes it's just 30 seconds. Sometimes it's 10 seconds. It's about bringing all the energy, the chaotic energy, down from your head, analysis paralysis, overthinking, monkey mind, call it whatever you want. It's taking that chaotic energy and pulling it down to my heart and spending as much time there, imagining my heart as pure energy and extending it out into my environment. That's meditation to me. And seeing what messages God has, because if my mind is too overactive, I'm not in listening mode.
Yes.
But if I can pull my energy down long enough to hear, and I don't hear with my ears, I see pictures, everyone's different, but that often will reveal to me what I need at a self-care level and what any kind of action step that I might need to take. What would be the easiest action step that I could take next? And I think that's why I've excelled at action, because I'm always just looking for the next small step versus the whole forest through the trees.
Right. I think so many people, when they hear the word meditation, they picture monks sitting crisscross applesauce and, going, And I don't really think that is the right depiction, because in my mind, meditation is just being in the moment. And when I'm praying, I'm talking to God, but meditation is clearing my mind and actually listening to Him talk to me. And
Correct.
like I think you said, I get it's a movie in my head. I like we spoke a couple of days ago, and we were talking about this podcast actually, and you asked me. You said, "Have you given it to God?" And you said what you like to do, which is, wrap it up and put it in a box and hand it to Him. And I loved that visualization, and I did that last night, and we actually had to have a conversation.
Oh,
So
good.
I will have, we had our little conversation back and forth. But it was helpful because I completely worked it out. And if I was in mom brain mode, I'm not in the moment. I am in 15 different places at one time.
Absolutely. Absolutely. There is, I typically will go into some type of visualization, both when I meditate and I guide my clients, my coaching clients, through many guided imagery type visualizations, meditations. There's so many words. It's really hypnotherapy. I've been studying that and in process of getting certified. And what I found out was that all hypnosis is self-hypnosis. So having someone guide you can be really beneficial, but you are really still the one allowing yourself to access your subconscious and let go. And all surrender is letting go. And really taking your conscious mind, the stuff that runs your day-to-day, the yellow sticky note to-do list that never ends, that part of your brain is preventing you from really having any depth of thought or emotion in your life. It's just keeping you busy, busyism. Just being addicted to the to-do list. And I lived there for a long time, really unsatisfied. And now that I am able to access this other part of my brain, I feel relaxed and peaceful and joyful and so grateful for every single thing I have in my life. And what I learned over 10 years of really not liking my life is that it's all perspective. It wasn't about the stuff. It wasn't about the relationship. It wasn't about what I had or didn't have. It was about having gratitude for whatever it was that I had and remembering that I had it because I once wanted it. That everything we have now, at one time we wanted, which already makes us master manifestors. It already means that whether you believe in the law of attraction or not, it's working in your life. And so taking ownership of that I am constantly creating my environment with my thoughts and my emotions, is wonderful when good things are flowing in. But when bad things are flowing in, that's a tough pill to swallow, that you also are attracting that. And that was the aha moment that I had. Thank God for my sister, Lisa Freitag, who is also a coach. She started as a nutrition coach, a holistic nutrition coach, and really wasn't getting the results she was looking for with people. She was finding out that food and emotions were really tied together, and if she wasn't addressing the emotional blocks with her clients, that their food choices weren't changing and their habits weren't changing. And when she dove deep into the emotional stuff, everything changed. And she would tell me all about these wonderful coaching calls she was having and the results she was getting. And I said, "Can you coach me?" And she was like, "What do you mean?" And I said, I really have some fears. I have some big stuff I want to do, and I'm afraid." This is way before Facebook. And she said, "Yeah, I can try." And so it took us a while to detach from being sisters. And she walked me through all those blocks and fears, all of those monkey mind chatter, conscious dramas that I was going through. And I had to take a hard look at myself and realize my part in every single thing that I didn't like in my life. And that level of vulnerability and ownership is where change can occur. And until you reach that level of taking ownership of your part, because you can't change another person, you can only change yourself. Any amount of time you spend trying to change another is actually avoidance of doing your own inner work. So if you find yourself judging people often, you're in denial of the shit you got to change, right?
Amen. Yes.
I mean, it's sad, but it's true. So you see these bullies out there, they're just afraid. They were hurt once, and they're protecting themselves, and they are just avoiding doing any of that deep work because it hurts. So eventually, I'm sorry, my dog's scratching at my door. I'm going to let her in. She doesn't know we're recording, does she?
Mine will be doing that soon.
Yes. So eventually, she became such an amazing coach to me. And I was having such success, and I was, I had launched my coaching business, and my dental public health administrative career was flourishing, and everything was just top notch. And she said, "This isn't fair. I want someone to coach me the way that I coach." And I said, "Teach me." And she was like, "Really?" And I said, "Yeah, teach me your method." And so when she did, and we really got clear on what was unique about the way that her and I were speaking to each other, that's when we decided to launch Sister Tribe. And our goal eventually is to train women how to coach each other the way that we do for free, so that you never have to pay for a coaching session, and your coaching sessions never expire, and you've got a sister for life. So that has been kind of our big, hairy, audacious goal since we were 20. We've spoken about this since we were 20. We know we have a unique relationship and that we are uber blessed, and we just want to share that.
Well, then let's go back. Let's talk about how when you had the picture-perfect family and you knew that there was something inside of you that was unsatisfied, how did your sister help you through that? What changes did you make?
We were both really unhappy at that point. She was actually living with me, and I blamed it on my husband. He's a great man. My daughter's father is a great man, and we are now good friends, which people told us when we first divorced that wasn't okay. And we were both kind of like, well, too bad. Your opinion of this really it doesn't matter to us. It was important to us to maintain a really close friendship for the girls' sake.
That's the only way it should be.
Right.
For people to think that is weird, that's just because...
Unfortunately, not the way that often is. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Right. I tell everybody, I love him the exact same that I loved him before. The level of love that I have for him is the exact same. It's not husband-like, it's brother-like. Mm-hmm. Right? So we're no longer intimate, but I love him the exact same. And that bothered some people too. And, I grew. I was doing all this deep inner work and all this self-help, and I grew. And the things that I wanted to talk about just weren't really things that he was interested in. And we just went our separate ways. There was no huge drama. There was no huge fight. Of course, I thought that it was him, but it wasn't. It was me. But you think that you would never get divorced if you thought it was you, right? You would only get divorced if you thought it was the other person.
Right.
And so sometimes two people don't blend. In hindsight now, I think the person I am now, I could have saved that marriage. But he's happily remarried. They have, 2 more kids. So there's no need for me to do the whole what if game, because what good is it going to do? Any amount of time you spend taking the past apart doesn't change it. It's never going to change it. So I really don't spend much time there anymore. We had some major challenges because we lived about 8 hours from our parents, and so we didn't have grandparents nearby. And our oldest daughter has spina-bifida, so she had a lot of medical challenges and physical challenges, which can be hard on a marriage as well. So with everything that I've been through with my oldest daughter, Zoe, that was the art of surrender for me. That was the very first moment that I ever surrendered anything to God. I would have considered myself a type A perfectionist control freak until that moment. And it's a 2-hour podcast in and of itself. So I won't go into a lot of detail, but basically, we we chose to have her. So now they diagnosed spina bifida so early because of the 3D ultrasound that many families choose to abort. And we chose not to. We really believed that however God made her was perfect, and that we would do the best we could for her, and that she would be okay. And we held that belief, and I surrendered it to God. And when we had her, I spent probably 3 hours in the NICU alone. My husband was home. Alone in the NICU crying, trying not to scream. And there was a nurse there. She would come and rub my back, and then she would leave, and she'd give me some alone time, and I just gave it all to God. I gave all of her success, happiness, abilities, thriving, joy in life. I gave it all over. And for someone like me who had never given control of anything over to anyone ever, it was the scariest time in my life. And I felt like I had no other choice. There was no way that I could do what God could do. And I've raised her that way. I've raised her, number one, not to think of herself as disabled, but differently abled. Number two, to advocate for herself. If you don't say what you need, no one's going to know. It's up to you to ask for accommodations and to say what you need. And then thirdly, to believe she can do anything she wants to do. So she's a miracle. Her paralysis level is L5, and she walks unaided. She is basically paralyzed below the knee, and it's really kind of a miracle that she does what she does. She's walking around a college campus right now. We found these amazing non-slip boots. And, I'm texting her going, it's really icy today. All the schools are canceled. You should take the shuttle. She's like, I'm okay, Mom. So I've raised her to be an independent badass. And she calls herself a warrior. And the pride that I have in my heart for how she's doing now, I mean, we had some knockdown, drag-out fights during puberty. During, 8th grade, she moved in with her dad. I mean, we fought like sisters. And to see how she is now and how strong our relationship is now, I mean, it makes me just tear up. And that is the beauty of surrender. There's no way, if I didn't surrender her entire well-being to God that night, there's no way she'd be doing as well as she does. It's a God thing, for sure.
That is so inspiring, Jamie, because I remember when I had my first daughter, both girls, we had scheduled it and the delivery, and I remember the night before I went to her dad and I was crying. I was just bawling my eyes. And he said, "What is wrong with you?" And it was I knew that I had no control. At that point, it was, she's coming and she's going to be who she is and you cannot control it. And I was, what if there's something wrong with her? What if she has a disability that nobody knew about? What if I don't love her? Literally, I was so scared.
Wow, yeah.
I was so scared because I didn't have that issue with my second child because I knew the mother's love, it didn't matter. But I'm so blessed to have two perfectly healthy children. I cannot imagine the fear that I had the day before giving birth to Harley. I can't imagine going through what you went through with your daughter. And clearly she is a warrior because her mom is a warrior, and kudos to you. So what advice would you give to parents who have a child with special needs? Because as you said, some parents do choose to abort, and I do not judge anybody for the choices that they make because it's your life and God's giving you that, and He's giving you the freedom of choice.
Right. God gave us free will. Absolutely. God gave us free will. I think that, if I was to speak on how were we brave enough to make that choice when so few do, I ask myself, and I still ask myself this now, am I acting out of love or fear? And if I act out of fear, sorry, I ran downstairs and put my dog in her crate. Out of breath. If I act out of fear, this entire experience that follows is going to have fear as its foundation. And if I act out of love and surrender, this entire experience is going to have love and surrender as its foundation. And I'd much rather have, that which is unseen. Whatever label you give to that which is unseen, whether you give the label God, Jesus, Buddha, the universe, source, whatever nickname you use doesn't change what it is. It doesn't change that it's universal, just unconditional love. And we call my younger daughter JoJo, but her name is Jocelyn, and she has the nickname Joe. And I tried Jossie for a couple of years. A couple of people call her Joss. So it doesn't change who she is. And God is the same way. Whatever nickname you use doesn't change it. And I would rather have God as the foundation than anything else. And that's the way we got through this. That's the way that things have been okay. I think that having that choice is a blessing, versus not having that choice. And when it comes to spina bifida, you now have to know because you need a scheduled C-section. And it's even becoming more standard of care to have in utero surgery where they're actually closing the baby's back while still in utero, while still inside the mother. So there's all these advancements, and 20 years ago, 40 years ago, kids with spina bifida passed away before they were being shunted, before they were closing their backs immediately after a C-section. So it's continuous process improvement. It's constantly changing. It's constantly, things are being improved. So
what advice could you, but what advice could you give to parents who might be facing the same situation, something to help inspire them, encourage them?
I didn't have Facebook back then. This was 1999. Reach out to whatever the diagnosis is that you're given, whether it's cleft palate, spina bifida, Down syndrome, whatever the diagnosis is. Reach out to some support groups on Facebook. They will welcome you as a parent, and they will not judge you based on your decision. I have really found how educating and welcoming these parent groups are, and I've been a part of many of them. And so reach out and see what a child is like. When you Google spina bifida, you see bubbles on backs. You see leg bracing. What about the smiling children? What about the laughter? You don't see that when you Google, but when you go into these parent groups, you're going to see thriving, happy kids versus the medical stuff, versus all the scary stuff. We were given, my girl's dad and I were given all the negatives at the hospital. They scared the shit out of us. It was nothing but negativity. It's due to liability, and it's not their fault. They're two happy people. It's the way the world is structured right now, so I don't blame them. But we went from your baby has the most severe form of spina bifida to you're young, you can start over, let's discuss termination. There was literally a 1 second pause between those two phrases. At 22 years old, we were so scared. So scared. And there's no way we could have done this without God. There's zero chance that we could have done this without God. So whatever your religion or spirituality or beliefs, giving it to God and making the decision out of love is honestly the best choice you can make.
That's great advice. Thank you. So here you are, divorced, a single mother, and one with special needs. Mm-hmm. Tell me about the moment when you realized that you were going to be okay.
I had another failed marriage, very quick failed marriage, and another failed relationship after that. So this kept going. My belief that I had bad luck, my belief that it was the other person, it wasn't me. If I could just find the right person, I would be okay. versus if I could just become myself, I would be okay. And at the end, when I was alone, because I've had a boyfriend since I was 12, so I have not spent very much time alone, but the 4 months that I did were the best 4 months of my life. It was where I went all in. I filed bankruptcy, my house foreclosed, I did an unpaid internship to finish my bachelor degree and change careers.
So what you're saying is things were going really well.
But isn't that funny? When I was at rock bottom, it was the time of my life. It was the best time of my life.
Why do you think that is?
Because I met my real self.
Okay.
There was no bullshit in the way anymore. There was nobody there to blame it on. I was alone.
Right.
My kids were spending a lot of time with their dads. It was summer, and his wife is a teacher. So I was spending a lot of time alone. And spending a lot of time on the phone with my sister, being coached through all this pain that I had been avoiding and my contribution to it. Taking ownership of my part hurts like hell. Well, to answer your earlier question, I just had the memory. The moment that I realized where I was fully, I was standing at the dollar store. I had $7 and I had 9 things on my list. And I could only afford 7. And these were basics like shampoo and toothpaste. And I had to decide what I was not going to come home with. That was all the money I had. I was too proud to ask my parents for any. And that was that. I stood in the toilet paper aisle of the Dollar Tree bawling. And when I got out of the store, I bought my 7 things. I can't remember to this day what I got, but when I left that store, I went, hey, Jamie, you really don't feel any different, do you? And it was like I was talking to myself, and I said, no, actually, I feel the exact same. And I heard the words, this is rock bottom. There's nowhere to go but up.
Wow.
And that was exhilarating to me. It couldn't get any worse.
So in your
2
mind,
divorces, a failed relationship, a foreclosure, a bankruptcy. I had left an awesome job to do this unpaid internship, and then I was second in line. They had a job opening, and they gave it to somebody else. I mean, I had hit after hit after hit. That was it. There was nowhere to go but up.
then why did you choose to go up instead of staying at rock bottom, as some people do?
Because I gave it to God. I gave any fear I had of the unknown, because being happy for no reason was an unknown to me. That was honestly scarier than staying miserable. I have heard it say that human beings would rather feel worried than nothing at all. So finding neutral, finding a place of non-worry is important as a first step before you can really feel good. And I don't know why, but for whatever reason, I've always been someone that zips through the neutral. I can find neutral really fast and really easy. And once you're in neutral, finding the positive isn't so tough. So my husband actually, my current husband, actually has taught me so many important lessons in life. We've been together 8.5 years, and he is a godsend. He is the most amazing, patient man I've ever met. And he's a little older than me, so as I'm going through stages as a parent, he's really able to give me insight as to, well, I remember being there, and this is what I missed out on. So focus on this. Focus on enjoying their last year at home. Focus on cooking that elaborate meal, even if you don't feel like it, cooking that elaborate meal that they requested, and just enjoying them sitting at the kitchen table, because they won't be here forever. So he and my sister, and of course my mother, I know not everyone is blessed to have a mother with a lot of insight, but my mother has patiently, quietly taught me so many important lessons, both with her actions and with her words. And we've even talked about it. We want the best for our kids, and sometimes we're teaching them based on what we screwed up on. And we hope they do better. And she told me that really her goal is that we do better than she did. That gave me permission to screw up. That gave me permission to screw up and not beat myself up, and to be an imperfect parent, and to tell my daughters the same thing. I hope you're a better mom than I was. I screwed up a lot. I know you're going to do better.
That had to be liberating for your mom to be able to admit that, and for you to be like, oh, okay, I'm not failing at this thing, because we feel as parents that we're failing every single day. I feel like my kids are going to grow up to be serial killers or something. Oh, boy, it's hard.
I'm sure not.
Let's hope
one of the things that I learned is that you give your children what you wish you would have had. But because they get that, they want something else. So no matter how hard you try, you're giving them what you wish you had, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I can see that for sure.
Yeah. So, and because they have it, they don't want for it. So they're never going to appreciate it like you would have appreciated it if you would have gotten it.
That is such a great perspective.
There is just something else that they wish you were,
yes,
or gave, or had.
Every time I give the kids stuff, I'm like, you know what? They get everything I ever wanted, and they're still unhappy.
Yeah.
Everything I ever wanted.
Yep, exactly. And so right there, I mean, it allows for imperfection. It allows for miscommunication. It allows for some big knockdown, drag-out fights. And when you and so finally I just went to my kids and I said, when I had the realization, I said, what do you wish I was, or gave, or you had? And they both had different things. And I really listened, and I really was open. And one of the things that has made a huge difference in our household is about 4 years ago, we all took the love language quiz, the 5 love language quiz. And now that we understand how each other feels loved and gives love, it has opened up a whole new world of communication where we're all making sure that we're speaking each other's love language, not just our own. And that in and of itself has, I think, caused our entire home environment to be more peaceful and happy. Nobody yells anymore. There was a lot of yelling for a lot of years. Nobody ever yells. Ever. It's such a wonderful, peaceful thing, and something that I grew up with yelling, So it's something that I think is just patterned. I think that stressful parents get to a point where they just don't know what else to try. They've tried everything that they can think of, and the only thing that seems to motivate their kids is yelling. And I was there. And so once your kids are old enough, and they do have a 5 love languages for kids quiz where you can actually read it to them. So even if they're 3 or 4, would you rather have a teddy bear or a hug? It's that kind of stuff. Mm-hmm. I recommend it to everyone now, everyone, because it has made such a difference.
It is very true. I haven't done the one with the kids. I keep telling myself I'm going to. It's just one of the many books that I say I'm going to read. But I have read the one for adults, and it's definitely helpful because like you said, we are so used to giving love the way that we need it. And when someone says their love tank is empty, it's because we're not giving them love the way that they need it.
Correct. But I'll go a step farther and say that ownership of your own tank is key.
Oh, for sure.
And so one of the things I learned with the 5 love language quiz, I would have said that my love language was quality time, but it's actually acts of service. It's high-end acts of service. And so when someone doesn't say, Mom, the house looks really clean, thank you, I would get butthurt. I expected them to appreciate a clean home like I did, but they didn't. That wasn't their love language. They don't care. So here I have 2 with physical touch. They just want a hug, and then I have 1 with gifts. She just wants little surprises to be in her bedroom when she comes home from school. And so learning that acts of service as my love language, if no one else is going to speak that language, then I need to speak it of myself. I need to speak it to myself. You cannot pour from an empty cup. So I now have to provide acts of service to myself to fill my tank and to fill my cup so that my cup floweth over.
My fiance and I are completely opposite because he is words of affirmation and I'm acts of service. So he will come home and be like, just so you know, I did the dishes. And in my mind, I'm like, oh, good job. You know, I'm like, why do I need to congratulate you? You used the dishes. Yeah. But he needs me to say, oh, thank you for doing the dishes. It makes him feel loved.
You're amazing, baby. I know. But isn't that true?
Yeah.
That's so he's providing a service. So he's filling your cup. He's scratching your back. And he's looking for you to scratch his. And we have to play with it. We have to really tiptoe into it because it feels really yucky at first to fill someone else's cup for them. But when you start to realize that it's a two-way street and that everyone can be happy and everyone can always be pouring into each other's cups and their own, and that it's an abundance mindset, really, that it's not, oh, there's only so much and I need to get as much of it as I can, but by pouring into your cup, my cup's naturally flowing, overflowing too. So it's another one of those mindset things that took me a long time to understand. And now taking the time, leaving the dishes and taking a bubble bath on a Wednesday night provides me with more energy than having a spotless kitchen counter, which for years was what I was yelling over. Nobody does anything around here but me. It was my self-righteousness that was often causing my unhappiness.
Oh, yes, so many
people
can relate.
Yes. Well, but the moment that you have the awareness that you can change it, I am the problem, at least a huge part of the problem, right? Because you can't change other people, you can only change you. So in my happiness level, where is my own attitude, self-righteousness, view of right and wrong, judgment of others, where is this blocking abundance and happiness in my life? And when you change that, when you realize the only thing I'm in control of is that, not other people, not their actions, not their words, but I am in control of me. That awareness starts a snowball effect of prosperity coming into your life.
And now you are blissfully happy and coaching people heal and find happiness and live their ideal life. What are some signs that you would say that people are unsatisfied in their life?
Well, I have a really popular. It's my go-to coaching question, and I, as a dental hygienist, like you are, we really like measurements, right? We like metrics. We like numbers. We do a perio chart for our patients, and so we're watching for improvements in numbers. And so I asked myself way back when I started coaching, and I started coaching 10 years ago, but it was my patients mostly and some coworkers. So I didn't have an actual big business about it, but I asked myself, how would I measure whether we're having improvement? And so the question that I came up with is, on a scale of 1 to 10, how satisfied are you with your life overall right now? And the first number that comes to your mind in the first 1 to 2 seconds is correct. Don't overthink it. Don't overanalyze it. Trust your intuition. And so people come up with a number. If your number's below an 8, you got room for improvement. There's a gap between where you are and where you'd like to be. A lot of people that are an 8 overall go, yeah, you know what? I'm feeling pretty good. I wake up each day grateful. If you wake up in the morning and don't have a hard time finding positive thoughts, I'd say you're pretty satisfied with your life. You've probably done a lot of the deep inner work. If you wake up in the morning, oh my God, another day. I dread putting on these clothes to go to work. I dread this job. I dread these people. If you're dreading life, you're probably down in, the 2, 3, 7, whatever range. And the next question is, what would it take for you to become a 10? Or if someone's a 3, I say, what would it take for you to become a 5? Because, again, 5 would be neutral, right? You've got to find neutral before you can find positive. And so for some clients that are really down, I just help them find neutral. I just help them find a place where they realize that they're in control. And then they get to choose from there what kind of life they'd like to build. But that question has by far been my most powerful question.
So for those people who need to find neutral, who are just really in a dark place and they feel like they don't have control and that life has just pretty much been out to get them and they have a hard time finding any positivity in life, what kind of advice could you give them?
Surrender. You're trying to control things that you can't control. Bad stuff happens. We lost my husband's middle son to suicide 3 years ago. And anything bad that had happened to me prior to that was nothing compared to this loss. And we feel his loss every single day. And there will never be a day that we don't wake up and feel his loss. That there's a hole in our family. That there's a hole in our hearts. So we can't control what happens outside of us. We can only control our reaction to it. And when you go from living a reactionary life to a proactive life, where you decide how you're going to feel when you wake up, you decide what you're going to do with your day, you decide what kind of career or job you're going to take on, that's the place where you can really start to feel good. But getting just to neutral, reach out to somebody, reach out to a coach, reach out to a friend, reach out to a mentor. There are so many people that have been through it too. Find someone else who's been through it. Vulnerability is so beautiful, and Brene Brown has done so much work on shame and guilt and vulnerability, and it's opened up a new conversation that people are no longer afraid to have, because we only feel connection through vulnerability, not through appearing perfect. That when you see someone that appears perfect and has it all together, that doesn't make you feel connected to them. When someone shares their hard knock story and you can shake your head and go, yeah, me too, I've been there, I felt that way, that's when you feel connected with other human beings. So sometimes if you're really down, sharing your story and helping another person can get you to neutral.
I couldn't agree more. Now, can I ask you about your stepson? Did you guys know that he was so unhappy? Or that there was something going on in his life?
No, he had struggled with addiction.
Okay.
And he seemed really stressed out, but not unhappy, really stressed out. They had a child, and their wedding was a couple of weeks away, and he was working 2 jobs. He was a tattoo artist, but had gone for a plumbing apprenticeship, and so he had a lot on his plate. But any 25-year-old guy with that on his plate would seem stressed out, right? And he had conquered his addiction of injectables and was drinking alcohol. And we didn't understand how much. So on the surface, he appeared to have it all. Again, on the surface, his life looked beautiful and perfect. And he was a bright light. When he entered a room, he just made everybody smile. He was that kid, that was always giving, was always worried about others, was always offering a wink or a hug. And so, no, we didn't know. And only after his death, and we still don't know why. We'll never know why. It was impulsive, and it was like a knife entered your heart that day because no one expected it. There was zero warning signs. When we look back now, in hindsight, we see some warning signs. And I try to share with people what those warning signs are. But I don't know in the moment that you can see it. That's why they call hindsight. It's always 20/20. I don't know if you think anyone is getting really quiet, if you think anyone is kind of withdrawing or numbing with alcohol or other substances, just reach out. Try to get them to connect with you. And if they won't connect with you physically in person, at least be there for them when it comes to the support of a text or of a Facebook message or a virtual hug, meme, whatever it takes, a gift, anything, to say, I'm here for you if you need to talk. And really, sometimes that's the best we can do.
It's so easy for people to get stuck in that dark place. It's so much harder to work your way out of it. And I mean, I can honestly see how easy it would be for people to stay there. And as sad as it is, I feel blessed that I was created with the tenacity that I have to be able to push through. And that's why I've had the life that I've had, because I'm made to be able to push through these things. But that's not the case for everybody. And I think one of the things, one small step that somebody can do when they're feeling down, not sit at home by yourself. You need to get out. If it's outside, go on a walk or talk to people. When you stay alone and you get stuck in your head and your own thoughts, you can't get out.
We call it toy. Think outside yourself.
Yes, I love that.
It is very counterintuitive because all you can think about is your grief and your pain. But if you can think outside yourself long enough to help another, oftentimes what you need naturally shows up. I don't think anyone can get out of the darkness alone. Nobody. Right. And not everyone has the faith of that which is unseen, of God. Not everyone has that relationship with God. I think without my mother and my sister and God, I'd still be there. So I think really independent people think they should be able to do it themselves, but you can't. You cannot get out of that dark place by yourself. You have to, like you said, leave the house or call a friend or hire a coach or go to therapy or walk into the ER and say, I am in trouble. I'm afraid I'm going to hurt myself. I need help. And that there is no shame in that at all. That shows, to me, incredible courage and strength.
Absolutely. Then what do you think are a few things that people can do, regardless of the pain that they're going through and life's challenges? What are some things that you think that people can do in order to heal?
Oh, talk about it. Just talk about it. Find someone to talk about your pain with. Shame cannot survive being spoken. Most of the time when people are in pain, I have found with my clients, and I've coached over 200 people now, when you're in pain, you're feeling shame about something that you did. Sometimes it's something that happened to you, but most of the time it's how you reacted to it, and you're feeling regretful about something. So if you can get to a point where you can say out loud, I screwed up. I messed up. In this area of my life, I screwed up. Here's the part I did wrong. Really not focusing on the other person, because hurt people hurt people. So you have to detach from whatever was done to you and say, you know what, you hurt me, but that's because you were hurt and you were just passing along this pain, right? I think of negative emotion as a basketball, and that we all are carrying around however many basketballs that we have not realized we can just put down. And from time to time, we throw these basketballs at other people. And each person we throw it at has the option of catching it and throwing it at somebody else, which is just throwing the pain around, of catching it and holding on to it. Highly empathetic people are walking around with other people's basketballs. I'm going to hold this for you so you feel better, which doesn't work. Or you can catch it and you can put it down. And learning that emotions aren't permanent and that you do have a choice how long you carry them, or whether you pass them along or whether you put them down, was a really big moment for me in my healing.
So Jamie, tell us, now that you're a life coach and you've been helping so many people, for the people who don't really know what a life coach is, what is it that you do, and how is it that a life coach can be beneficial for someone?
I do general life coaching, which means that I coach them based on their needs. So it can be any specific niche. It could be fitness, health, finances, relationships, career, self-care, finding your why. Any topic. But the difference between coaching and, let's say, therapy is that it's very future-focused. You're helping someone figure out how to move forward in life, how to set a goal, and how to reach that goal. And I work with their personality. I go into their world with them to get their map of the world and then help them create an action plan of how they're going to go forward. So I'm not doing anything. All that I'm doing is holding their hand and giving them support when they need it so that they can be brave enough to take those steps. Whereas in therapy, there's a lot of work from the past and understanding the past. I don't believe we're meant to sit and pick apart our past. So I will usually spend about 1 to 2 sessions with a client on the past, just long enough that they feel comfortable letting it go. Explaining to them how what they went through as a child has patterned them into the adult that they are today. And that anytime they experience fear, it's really their wounded child acting out because something happened in the past that hurt them. And that part of them, that 6-year-old part of them, is still protecting them. The book, The Untethered Soul, by Michael Singer, was a huge, huge book in my life. He talks about each time you were hurt as a child, it's like a thorn. And now you're protecting the thorn. And so you're constantly saying to people, no, don't touch me there. That triggers me. That triggers my pain. And it's someone else's fault. But you could just take the thorn out. And so in coaching, in the first 1 to 2 sessions, I'm looking for thorns. And I'm asking my clients, are you ready to take this out? Are you ready to get rid of this? Because it's your choice. And they just didn't know that they had a choice all those years. They knew something was there. They knew they were getting triggered often, but they didn't know they could take the thorn out. So that's what we do, and then we move forward. Any past work, I think, is really more of the healing energy modalities. And so I think my sister is a light worker. She's really not a coach to me. She's a huge light worker, sent to this planet by God to help people heal. And so I do kind of a combination of some of the healing work and the action work, or the movement forward. Having someone hold you accountable, hey, did you do what you said you were going to do last week, just naturally increases their ability to get stuff done. Because as humans, we're just naturally designed to want to please others. And when you've spent money on coaching, you're also more likely to follow through. Same thing with fitness. Everybody spends hundreds of dollars on a new fitness and health routine in January, right, with the New Year's resolutions. Mm-hmm. And because you've invested some money, you've got more skin in the game, and you're more likely to follow through than in December when you're just thinking, I should eat healthy, but you don't.
Right. I should eat healthy, but now that I paid $100 for the gym.
Exactly. Now I'm going to go and I'm going to eat healthy because I've got skin in the game. And so that's another reason why coaching works. So in mentorship or consulting, you're often being told what to do by someone who has experience in the area that you're trying to break into. And that's okay. That can be helpful. But it's not the same as being on your own authentic path, like we talked about in the beginning of this call. Being on your own authentic path, no one's been there before. So nobody really can give you advice. they can hold your hand while you go within and listen to your own inner being, your own inner knowing. And that's what a coach does.
Why do you think that being on your own authentic path is so important?
Because that's the whole purpose of life. It's not to repeat someone else's success or mistakes. It's to make your own.
Absolutely. Well, Jamie, you are a wealth of information, and this has been an awesome show. I'm so grateful to you. Tell the listeners how they can find you.
Sure. So I'm someone who, is open to any form of communication. You can go to my website, jamiedooley.com. It's JamieDooley, and you can reach out to me there, or through Facebook, Jamie Freitag-Dooley, Freitag. My maiden name is in there. Send me a message, and let's chat. I'm very open to talking to anyone about any topic. I speak a little. I never intended to be a speaker, but if it helps my message get across and it helps people heal, then I've started doing that as well. So if you think I could be of value or service to your organization, I'm happy to chat.
That's awesome. All right, Jamie. So thanks again, and we will be talking to you soon.
Thank you so much, Katrina. I am so happy for you and your new journey.